Would you like to understand the nature of vitaka, or what? Or to understand our dharmas are not self at all, even right now. It's not known, the nature of that which now sees, experiencing, and hearing, experiencing. But we just talk about it. But what about that reality, its nature, just to arise and experience? At that moment, who knows that vitaka? Impossible, because the first thing to be the direct object for understanding the truth is the characteristic which is not self. So now we are talking about realities which cannot be anything besides its real nature, each one. But we don't know at all, so we just learn about what is there before it can appear to the highly developed panya to really understand the nature which just arises. The characteristic which cannot be taken for anything is the characteristic which just experience right now. For example, if we don't think about anything at all, but still there is that reality which arises. See, it experiences, but the object is not known, because at that moment the characteristic which experiences just there, unknown as it's not self. So the self is there. That's why we have to understand that what is taken for something or someone or I is at this moment of everything. And the thinking about vitaka and so on is just what we have learned, but that which does not appear cannot be object of understanding. So the point is that how can there be conditions to understand what is appearing now as it is, as different characteristic? One cannot experience anything, but it's there as object. It cannot be anything. That's why we learn to understand the very close moment which arises and falls away so very rapidly that no one can understand the characteristic as it is the vitaka, that which lead to this and that, or it is the parsa which contacts it. Just learn about there's no one. Only that which experiences is not known directly, clearly yet. So at this moment, there is thinking about vitaka. What's that and where's that? See, it's only in memory about that. But can there be the direct understanding of vitaka? Impossible. What can be known in the first thing, that the characteristic which now experiences? But since no one can make the direct awareness and direct understanding of this moment just to arise at all, that's why it needs conditions for understanding the truth about no self, no matter it is something there. The citta arises, experience it, and without the cittasikas which arise with that moment, it's impossible to let go the idea of self. So very deeply rooted, covered up very tightly. See, even when heard about no one knows self all the time, but what about seeing right now? See? So just learn to understand as much as one can understand. There is pasat for sure, and there is vitaka for sure. Why? We understand vitaka and pasa as no one can make anything to arise, only different conditions. And this is my point, but I don't know whether you'd like to understand more about it, as whether it is ayatana. Is vitaka ayatana as well? When we talk about ayatana, in order to understand just one word for one reality at a time. Is it dukkha? See, by way of different texts from this book or that book. But what is true at this moment Just know that it's there. It is ayatana. What kind of ayatana? Just know that it is ayatana. It's not enough. Just what kind, to understand better, to know the details that is so very, very subtle, to understand the subtlety of each reality, little by little, to understand that how deeply rooted it's there, covered up. We are talking about what is appearing. For example, hardness right now, as what Buddha taught from his enlightenment, but no enlightenment at this moment. So what about that which appears is very, very shallow, just the skin, not go down deeper to the nature it arises and falls away. And only one reality can appear at a time as the object. So what about that moment? So much different from this moment, full of everything. See, and what can be known? Just arise and falls away. So as much as we can understand is that they are not self, no matter what we're talking about. Ayatana or Ariya Satya or Dhatu or whatever subject or different aspects. It's our time. We can understand the different levels of anchor or attachment or mana, but not understanding their nature as no one and no self. And the truth is that they cannot just stay for long, only just arise and falls away instantly. So what can be known and direct understanding clearer and clearer is that which is now appearing. But there are no conditions yet, not enough condition. That's why what we are talking about, the different characteristics, different aspects, to understand it actually, it cannot be taken for something permanent as a tree, a chair, or a person. See, what about that meaning, the meaning of no one and no thing? Just imagine. Just one reality appear, otherwise it cannot be no one. If there are so many things arise together like now, it cannot let go the idea of something all the time. Even when one wakes up, not thinking about anything, but the pleasant feeling is there. Who has such pleasant feeling? No one, but the idea of I feel very pleasant, so happy. Even nothing appears as the object, see? But there must be the feeling, which is not self, the memory, sanya, which is not self, and other thing. Only when it appears, it's there. Ignorance is there, no understanding, until it's there with understanding. From intellectual understanding develop to understand that the truth is that the characteristic which appears now as it is, no one at all. And this is the point of studying the teachings, to understand what is there now as it is, the absolute truth. Actually, what is there is gone very rapidly, never to return. That's why we learn more about how can it be such nature, which is hidden, the truth, because of the rapidity of the succession from moment to moment. It becomes a something permanent as I, thing, all around, different from only one reality appears at a time, to be known as that cannot be anything at all. It has its own characteristic, which appears clearly that it's just that, no one, no thing, no change. So to understand phassa and vitakka, see, and other cetasika, manasikara, or the ekakata cetasika, all other names now, but the truth is that it's not only the name, they are there now, unknown. and what can be known as the object of direct understanding with understanding. We don't know when. But the truth is that if they do not appear as they are, impossible to eradicate the idea of self. That's why learning more, understanding the truth.
Ajahn, what is more? I was wondering quickly, what is more important in that, to see the characteristic of each Dhamma particularly, or more to know that everything that appears is anatta? What is more important first, Ajahn?
But what about the characteristic which is different, like one can experience and the other cannot experience? Otherwise, we just think about the name, the nama, and the rupa. See, it's only in one's mind, the story of these realities. But at moment of touching, what is that which is not self, which just arises and experiences that object only, and then gone? And so many things in between, unknown, so fast. What appears in life is just seeing and hearing. And when it's time for anger, it arises and be object and then it's gone. But so many realities are there from that moment on to the other moment which appears unknown. Like from the process of seeing and the process of hearing, what are in between? See, not known. What appears is just the same actual moment they are seeing and hearing together. See, but that is not clear understanding because the object does not appear as clear as is different ones. That's why to understand it, no one who sees and no one who hears, no one who thinks, no one likes and no one hates, or no one has mana and so on, beginning to remember they are not self. Nothing can be taken for something permanent as it is, as it appears like now. See, the truth is that it's so very subtle. And how can panya can penetrate the truth? It has to be from the skin, the peel, that it appears, but no understanding of the truth of it. And the studying, learning about the truth will lead to understanding. What is heard and is so true, but it takes time and no one can force that level of panya to arise instantly. Otherwise, one cannot see the kilesa which hinder the understanding. It's there all around, lopa and ignorance. But to understand firmer, more confidence that the truth is just like this, and this is the only way to let go the idea of self. That's why each word of the teaching and the path, the fourth noble truth, is so very subtle that no one can understand it only when panya develops from hearing to the moment of direct awareness, and it is the beginning of seeing or understanding the subtlety, the depth, the profundity of what is there. As it's gone, see, before it's gone, there must be the development of understanding that as just a reality. Otherwise, there is attachment to the other object which follows instantly all the time. No time to understand just one characteristic, and it's there now when it appears. For example, touching now appears. See, and if there is no understanding of that, just try to understand the other thing which is not appearing at that very moment. How can be the moment of understanding it at moment of experiencing it, and that appears so very rapidly, change from moment to moment. What is in between, usually it's ignorance, but when it develops, right understanding can be in between. instead of ignorance and attachment. Otherwise, we use the word sati, sampachanya, or satipatthana. But what is it? And when is it? And how is it? And we heard about the moment when it arrives, it is aware directly to the object. And now there are so many objects, anothernness. We don't know whether will the direct awareness arise and what is the object of it. It's there already for panya, with panya, to understand at that very moment as that is a moment of having direct awareness and direct understanding. But it's so weak, and it needs more understanding. Little by little, as not me, not self at all. That moment is conditioned to show its anotherness. And this is the point of listening to the teachings to understand the truth until it conditions moment of direct understanding of what appears.